Welcome to the White Knuckle Podcast with your hosts, Jason Science and Dr. Clint McCoy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 119 of the White Knuckle Podcast, brought to you by UC Hunting Properties. Tonight we have on the line with us over in Iowa, Mr. Clint McCoy as my co-host. How's it going, Clint?
I'm in Illinois, Jason.
You're in Illinois.
Fine.
Yeah, whatever. It starts with an I. It's close.
It's great.
Good.
It's feeling great. I just got out of the tree. First cold temperatures we've had in about the last, I don't know, maybe 40 days, it seems like. And I didn't see much tonight. It was a good welcome cold spell, though. I got down into the wind chills in the teens, saw a lot of does tonight, just didn't see who the guy was after.
So are you still feeling like you're in the hunt?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, that's an honest answer.
I'm scrambling. I'm not. I've got like maybe 3 target bucks that are definitely still alive and well post firearm, but the snippets of intel I've been getting on them are really kind of few and far between. I got super close on Sunday. Just totally went to heck on me. I got really close to one of them, but the other 2 that I'm kind of bird dogging, just very sporadic intel. Just nothing that I would consider like, actionable, go take it at them type intel. It's just so spotty. But our season closes here in a couple days, so it'll be good to kind of pack everything away and get back to like ripping stands and looking for that white gold out there in the countryside.
Right on. Well, hey, let's get to our guest tonight, and that is Mr. Scott Buckley. Scott's no stranger to the show. Scott, you've been on a couple different times, and Scott, you kind of have a unique story in that you moved to Iowa to start your business and really to hunt, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep, been here 11 years. Loving every minute of it. Been good up till this year. My worst year I've had hunting in 11 years, but up to that, I had fun doing it, but
good.
Just an off year for me.
Not good that you had a rough year. That's what Clint and I were talking about prior to hitting the record button and getting you on the line, is what kind of year you had and how you dealt with it. I'm assuming you got pummeled by EHD like the rest of southern Iowa.
Yeah, that was kind of my primary downfall. I mean, just right off the go, but a lot of bucks, especially I was after 2 big ones on a public piece, not far from my own property. That there was 2 big ones that I had all kinds of camera footage from last year and kind of got their patterns down in November and followed them through the winter. And then, I started picking them up this spring and they grew tremendously. One was a 6x6 that was, at least 170 gross, probably a little better. 6x6 with a split, so a 6x7. And his buddy, they were batchered up this summer. He was an 8-point. I think he had a split also, but one of the heaviest deer I've ever seen. He really grew the mass this year. And I would guess he had to be all of 160 as 8-point. I mean, probably better. And yeah, I was getting excited, getting them in the same areas, and then boom, EHD hit, and the adjoining neighbor to the public land found both of them dead within 100 yards of each other. You talk about knock the wind out of me.
Oh man!
And yeah, and usually every year I hunt a lot of different public pieces, but I was dwelling on these 2 deer just because I knew them so good. So I didn't spend, there's a piece of public, within half hour, 45 minutes of me. that I've killed a lot of my deer on there, and I didn't go down there this year because I was after these 2 deer, plus there was another, gigantic one that I had pictures of last year. He never showed up this year. And, I spent my time up by me and on my own property. So, and then that piece down to the south, 45 minutes away, that didn't get hit, only that short of a distance. And their EHD kill wasn't that bad down in there I have a couple DNR field friends, and, a lot of the hunting public guys hunt down there on that piece, and they weren't seeing the numbers down there. And I wish I would have, did more scouting down there, more camera work. I base everything kind of off my camera work, and without that, I was just kind of, lost. And then my own place, we found, we're up to 22 deer just on 240 acres that we found so far, and I haven't even been in, I wasn't going to start looking in late summer. This is just, kind of here and there where I was going. A lot of them kind of right up by my house, by the farmhouse there and by the creek. And, I haven't even been up in the north draw where a lot of the bucks are bachelor'd up this summer. That's a lot of deer for 240 acres. And, I was talking to a friend of mine, you guys might know of him, Chris Duncan. He hunts a lot around me there, and he was suspecting a lot of his farms. He lost 70% of his deer kill kind of up around in me in that area there. Yeah, that's tremendous. And right now the cold's hitting. I still got a lot of food plots out. I just ain't getting the bucks. I mean, it's the weirdest thing ever. There's a couple here and there, but not like they. We still got bucks, but we lost a lot of them. And
Scott, let me ask you this: like, at what point in the season, or maybe what month, or maybe a specific date rather, did you decide, like, things are not going to go as planned with EHD in the fold? Like, what did you do differently once you knew that bucks were dropping over dead? Did you adjust? Did you do anything differently?
I guess I just continue my camera work, and if I there was an occasional one that showed up, just not quite the 160 some inch deer, which is a good buck. I started hunting 2-3 of them. They were in some of the same areas, but where usually I would have 4 or 5 bucks to hunt, it got it down to 1 or 2. So it just, I talked about that on podcasts in the past. Usually when I picked an area, I like to not just target 1 buck. If I had 2 or 3, 4 shooters in one area, that really helped me, get a shot at one of them. Well, that's kind of all I did to adjust. I never went back down to that south stuff, where I hunted a lot in the past, but and time was a bigger strain. I got caught off guard by the CHD. This is the first year I didn't take off a week vacation off work. I was shorthanded at work, and I couldn't, just hiring people's just been terrible this year, and it just was off year for me all the way around. EHD work, the only thing I did was weekends and extended weekends. That seems odd for me, but, I'm my own boss. I can, take off a day or 2, but the problem is I didn't have the help this year. So, that's kind of, I guess, how I adjusted a little. I just targeted, a buck and tried to go after him, but I did.
We kind of had in Illinois, where my brothers and I hunt here on the family farm. We got hit in pockets, and we started really noticing those bucks vanish off of reliable trail cameras. Like right there around maybe the 3rd week of September, through the 1st week of October, and part of me and my brother, actually, Eric, was the one that really did this. We had a drop tine on, that we were really working on over the last couple of years. He'd been matured up to a 5, and he was so reliable that Eric just knew. He's like, I'm going to go walk this creek basin that he's been known to be in. I'm going to go find him. He actually took a day off of work to go search for him, and he found him right in that creek basin. And like,
Wow.
part of me doesn't like being that aggressive, like putting boots on the ground right around opening day and just, traipsing all over it. But I felt like we didn't have any other option when it come to that deer to provide proof of life for him. He's either dead or he's alive, and it helped us just shift focus like you had done. It helped us shift focus onto other animals that we had confirmed alive. And that was definitely a strange transition. It's definitely not the norm. Like, hey, let's go walk around our property on opening day, but it helped us in that scenario. We had it as well. Not near the mortality that you had up there. That number, the density that you had around 240 acres is steep. That is steep.
Oh yeah.
That's a.
And then we lost winter kill last year too, so that was a hit too. We had one of the worst winters ever since I've been in Iowa, and they said it was the worst in, I don't know, long time. But yeah, I found 13 dead deer on my place coming out of winter. A lot of them you could tell. I think 5 bucks. 4 of them were shed. The antler buck might have been, a wounded deer, but I was finding shed bucks that looked like they just died. As I was shed hunting in the middle of March, they were pretty fresh. So, and we had such extreme temperatures last year. We had, I know that one time it was, the actual temperature was 20 some below, and the wind chills were there. It was 30, 40 below there for 2-3 days, and deep snow, and it was unusual for Iowa. And I found just lots of button bucks. The neighbor found 20 some just right next to me. So, between, a lot of people say the EHD, but you take the EHD and the winter kill we had, we lost a tremendous amount in right my area. But
Clint, I'm curious
yeah.
to get your take on the winter kill. It's really surprising to me that Iowa would have winter kill. That's something that we hear about up north in northern Wisconsin. Certainly don't hear about it around here very often in central Wisconsin. Does that make sense?
One more thing I can add so Clint can say. One thing, there was a standing cornfield a mile away, and it never got harvested last year. We're finding dead deer in the cornfield. And I also did a little bit of supplement feeding on my place with corn. I know they say too much corn can kill them, but there was a standing cornfield. It was less than a mile, probably from my west border, half a mile over. Less than that, probably 600, 700, 800 yards over. And we were finding dead deer right in the cornfield. So I don't know if Clint can kind of know why that was happening. I mean,
winter mortality is a combination of a lot of different factors. Obviously it's available food, available thermal cover, and the condition of the animal going into that stress period. And so it's a really difficult question to quantify. I think I definitely will agree with you there. Too much corn sounds like a lot of standing corn sounds like a great thing to help a deer through winter, but a selective browser like a whitetail getting too much corn, it is a bad thing. It'll cause ruminal acidosis. They can founder and they can get very sick from it. And that's another big stressor on it. Another thing you need to think about is distance of travel from thermal cover to food. If some of that food source is buried in snow, or it's a long energy burn to get there, that's just more taxation on that animal. So there's a lot of different factors to that. We see in southeastern Illinois, where I live, I would venture to guess that our winter mortality is fairly light most years. This past winter, though, I did find a smattering of what, just like you said, definite winter mortality, some shed bucks that had passed away for sure. Just a few here and there, but nothing like what you guys see up there, or even in the northern states. But then it's a big conundrum of all those factors put in together there. Yeah.
Really, that just, it shocks me that that far south would have a winter kill. But wow, that's so you got hit times 2, really, Scott, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're talking, almost, from what I found, 40 deer just on my place between winter and summer.
Right.
So Scott, let me ask you this: so knowing what you know now, going forward, like what's your plan for next season, or what are you going to try to work towards? Is it more public ground? Is it different acreages? Is it all the above?
I'll still watch my place. Numbers are way down. You never know when a buck's going to blow up. We're definitely way short on deer. And, I'll watch some of the public areas by me, but I'll probably go more to the southern place where I've hunted, where they didn't have the EHD. It's only, 45 minutes from my property, south, and they didn't have the HD. So I definitely plan on, going back to my, my known spots down there and running trail cameras this summer, and just kind of, because I heard of a lot of big deer down in that area, and so that's kind of my plan for next year. Is I had my property, and I kind of dwelled on 2 different pieces, kind of closer to me, and we just got hammered. So I'm going to go back to traditional, get a bigger area, and I got too confident in patterning these couple bucks on public, and then I knew I had a couple on my place, and I got hit, and I wasn't expecting it. And with the little amount of time I had this year, it was hard for me to recover and get out and back in some of my older spots where the EHD wasn't hitting, I guess. But that's kind of where I'll go forward.
What's the plan? I mean, what's the outlook going forward after dealing with something like that? And you're obviously not alone. There's a ton of people down there that are dealing with this. But man, that yikes! I don't want to talk about doom and gloom all night, but that's going to be that. Does it change your management plan? I mean, do you start letting a buck that you normally wouldn't let walk just for the sake of having him around?
We had a couple 5-year-olds on our place this year. The kids started out strong on our place. They both killed big 8 points during the early muzzleload season on the same night. It was just fantastic. It was the coolest moment. My friend from Steve Noble from Maximum Outdoors TV, he was in the blind with my daughter. They were sitting on a clover plot in the middle of my farm, and this 5-year-old 8-point come out and worked a scrape, got a lot of good footage, and she, I think it was a 50-yard shot. She shot. Me and Cody were sitting in another blind. I was using Steve's camera, and I was filming Cody, and we heard the shot, and they ran down, and they figured they got it by the indications of the hit, but it ran down in the draw. And so they waited, and then, me and my son sitting there, and it's getting later in the evening. Tabby shot hers early. I don't remember the time, but like 2 hours before dark. And, 10 minutes before shooting light was over, or, when you're supposed to be done shooting, whatever that, yeah, all of a sudden here comes that other big 8-point we were after, and he comes down the edge of the field. My son's getting impatient, we're running out of shooting time, and he goes, Dad, let me shoot. I said, be patient. Be patient. I said, let him work in closer. He was way down the field, And I said, we're going back and forth. They're going to have fun editing that film that I'm yelling at him. Just chill, He's ready to pull the dang trigger. Finally, the buck got within, 60 yards or something, and I said, go ahead. It wasn't even out of my mouth, go ahead. And that trigger went off, and actually shot a little high. He spine shot it, but it went down right there, and they were both, incredible 8-point. I think Cody's was 4-year-old buck, and Tabby's was a 5-year-old. I knew that buck. But yeah, they were both, easily, we did haven't measured them, but easily, mid-40s, maybe high one. Cody's might have been a high 140s 8-point, and they were both really, really nice bucks. And so yeah, back to the question. You asked me how we going to manage going forward. Oh yeah, that's what I was getting at. So after that, I kind of told Cody, since we already took these 8s, we're not just we try to manage the farm, just try to keep it to older buck class, 5-year-old.
Sure.
And I mean, that one was a 4, but just the way it all played together, we were filming, both kids shooting one night, that's why I told Cody, go ahead, they're just two beautiful deer, and it just made for the whole, it's going to make for an excellent TV show too. And but after that, I told them there was only like 2 deer on the farm. There's one we call Scrappy. He's a 7 or 8-year-old 8-point that we've had pictures of since I've had the farm 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there was another one. I can't think of who it was now. But yeah, there was another 10. There was 2 10-pointers running around that were 5-year-olds, and he's seen both of them, and we decided to pass on them. Ended up the neighbor shot the one, But yeah, that's kind of, we were passing, 5-year-old, that weren't, they were probably a 150, low 150s deer. We just wanted to, since we were short on bucks, just wanted to kind of let them go, see what they were going to do the following year. We weren't out just to, kill something. And then I did shoot at one in both seasons. One we call Buddy Jr. He had a bunch of palmation on one side, and I hit him. I hit him back, and middle of November. He's one of my hit list bucks. Been watching him for 3 years, and I didn't see the arrow go in. It was only less than 20 yards. I don't know why I didn't see it. I shot, and it felt good, but I don't know, when he ran off, it just didn't seem right. And I waited 2 hours in the stand. I went and looked for blood, found some pretty decent blood. I said, well, I'm going to back out. This is 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to go back up the house for a while and just sit. And I came back out at 3, tracked him. 100 yards, blood started. I mean, it looked like dark liver blood to me. Pretty sure it was liver. I hit him. I went probably 200 yards. Blood just totally ran out, and I said, I'm done. I'll come back in the morning and see if I can let him sit overnight. Since by then I realized I went 200 yards that something was wrong, and it rained that night. I just started doing he was heading he was up on my north border. He was heading right into the center of the farm, and I put my Onyx maps on the footpath. And I walked every draw all that day. I walked everything. The following Sunday, I went up at the north, up into the neighbors. Casey circled back that way where he bedded. I couldn't find him. I think he never showed back up. He was a regular buck. I think he's dead. The only spot I think he might go, I had a lot of cameras to myself on the neighbors, and I was going to go last weekend, but just didn't. After deer season, I was going to go out and start looking. The neighbor will let me. I got a I told him I'd give him a call when I go in there, but he'll let me go down in there, and I'm hoping I can still, find him. It was just the way my season was going. And then another story, if you want to hear, I talked to Clint about this one. Yeah, that picture of that buck I sent you, the wounded one, muzzleload season. Yeah, no, this one's crazy. Anyways, yeah, this big old buck shows up. He was a narrow frame buck, but he had, pretty heavy racks, 6'5" with some junk and a couple broken tines. But, if I killed him, I usually get the tines repaired. But yeah, he showed up, I think, second week of December, and he had I had a couple pictures of him at night, but like in the rut, but that was it. He was hanging out on the neighbors. The neighbor would see him over there in the rut in the daytime, but or they had pictures of him. But yeah, he come onto my place wounded. He had it looked like a busted shoulder to me. He was struggling, walking, carrying that whole leg. I got him on video so I could kind of tell, he was struggling pretty bad. And I sent the video to Clint. I was worried, he's going to, before I get a chance, he looked pretty rough. Is he going to die, or is it, I figured he might die. He might shed a horn before I get a chance. I just wanted to take him out. He was a beautiful buck, and I hate seeing him suffer like that, and Clint pretty much told me, deer usually do pretty good with the front, injuries, and, if they got cover, and, you never know. But so anyways, yeah, my first opportunity to hunt them late season, I went back to Michigan for Christmas, and I got back the day after Christmas. So it was like 2 days after I got in the blind. I went in at night. I got down there, 10 o'clock at night, and I pulled a bunch of cameras I had on that side. I had 5-6 cameras kind of monitor where he was coming in and out. I had him on practically every camera. And then the video, he comes through this gate opening, and that's where my gun stand is, right there. He's coming into my food plots there. So I said, cool, he's probably hurting worse. He's wore down. I got 4 days to hunt him. I hunted 4 days, didn't see him. I'm like, geez. So, yeah, went back home. I came down the following weekend, which would have been last, 2 weekends, whatever, the 10th or 7th, 8th. I sat out that Saturday night. It was cold, and bucks were piling into the field, some other bucks. There was a nice 4-year-old 8-point that came in, and some small yearlings, does. And I seen this rack at the back end of the bean field, like over the hill. And I text my son. I said, I think there's a big buck out here, but I can't tell who it is. And waited. It's just right over the back side. And about half hour later, all of a sudden, this buck picks his head up. It's that buck. And the son of a gun lost one of his freaking horns. I was like, oh, man. And my brother, I was texting him, he says, shoot it. You'll probably find his shed. He ain't going to live anyway. I couldn't do it. I couldn't take a chance of taking, a beautiful deer with a half a rack and not, you never know if you're going to find that. I assume it's probably somewhere really close there, but I just didn't, and then I think, is he going to die? But, there's that chance where he might live, and I just couldn't shoot a one-horn deer, and I watched him, and then it got dark. He came within 40 yards right before dark. And then the following night, the same thing. He come out like hour and a half before light. He come out of my place and out of the center of my property, one horn, limping around. And I kind of felt bad for him because that 4-year-old 8-point, I think that was the night before, he was bullying him. He come in and kind of, went up to him and, with his ears back. He didn't touch him, but you could tell, them bucks knew he was hurt, and they, maybe want to shoot that 4-year-old 8-point just because he was bullying him. I thought, hey, you're ignorant, man. Pick on a wounded deer like that. But I didn't. But, yeah, that's the story on that one, Clint, Geez, with that first weekend, 100%. Yeah.
I think that buck will survive that, Scott. I look at that video a lot, and those forelimb injuries like that are way more forgiving, I feel like, than hind limb. They, especially, shoulder and elbow, that drop tine EHD buck that my brother found dead as a 5, he had this similar injury as a 3, right there in that cranial forelimb, and he looked miserable in late December on trail cam video. Like, we called him Survivor, man, because when the next year come around and he was no longer limping and his rack was starting to flourish, you couldn't tell there was anything wrong with that deer. And so as a 4, he started throwing that tiny drop on the opposite side where he was injured. But I thought for sure, I found his match sets the year that he was injured, and I thought for sure that was the last horn we'd ever find off of that deer. But he came through it just fine, and the downside was the EHD. He bit the dust from it as a 5.
Yeah.
But man, you never know. Those animals are so unbelievably resilient that they're just out of this world tough. And I feel like he'll survive that. I do.
He's got lots of food. I got lots of food there, and I'm thinking as long as they're winter, we don't get one like last year, which is abnormal for Iowa. We usually don't. Usually we get cold here, but usually we don't have a lot of snow. And so yeah, with the food, I'm hoping he's really pounding down the food now. I think I had a picture of him tonight on my cell cam, my Spartan cell cam. I'm pretty sure because I can tell on his opposite side, his one shoulder's like, because he's putting all the weight on it. His shoulder blade kind of sticks up almost into his spine, and he has lost quite a bit of weight. His hair's kind of rough, but I'm pretty sure I had a picture of him tonight on the still when he lost both his horns. But where he's feeding on a sugar beet field that's just full of food, and he's probably got enough food all winter. I hope, so long as the snow don't get deep and there's still some beans left. And I hope he survives.
Scott, you've talked a lot about trail cameras and using them in the preseason and during season, just to sort of narrow down, I guess kind of like we all try and do. But I'm curious to see how long you leave your trail cameras out, and what information you gather from those trail cameras and how it translates into next year for you.
On my own property, I pretty much leave them up year round. I take some in, take some out, but where I kind of starting to know them deer. I got so many cameras around, but it's my public land pieces where my camera work really pays off. And I usually, like right now, a couple of them public land pieces, I put them out. I got cameras in the same spot since probably July when I put them out. I removed them around come October, November, moved some around, added some. But yeah, those will sit there. A lot of them I haven't checked. When did I go home? I just think towards the end of both seasons, maybe the end of November. I went and moved some around, and I haven't been back in there since. Those will sit in them spots till probably. I'd like to get in there next week or two, just check batteries, because I like them to sit. I got bucks that hold their horns till. I would say the vast majority of bucks in my areas are probably dropping in maybe middle of February, late February, in that whole month of February. But I got some will carry into March. So yeah, I leave my cameras right through. Usually March, and then you get your shed hunters and everybody out there. So I try to pull them then. Even though I have been this year, a lot more of my cameras I've been putting in trees. I take one lone wolf step, get it up high as I can, and get to the top of that. I think that camera must be 10 feet maybe up. And my staff count has just went, I don't know if I did lose one this year. two, I guess. But they were some cheap Walmart tactical cameras that I had out on public, but it wasn't a big loss. But
we'll get Clint's opinion on those. Right.
Yeah, I've been putting a few of them out in public, and then I got actually because I was after a couple of them bigger deer. I've been on the Browning kick. I know you like them kicks, Clint. Yeah, I've been buying the shit out of Brownings, and I still got some of my Exodus. I got 7/8 Exodus. I love my Exodus. The Browning is a little cheaper than them, so I've been getting them. But those are my two favorite cameras, and I had some of them out in public, and I still do. But yeah, I usually pull them all in March, my public land ones, and that way I can tell, through the winter what bucks survived. Especially in a mild winter, they'll stick to their same, They'll be up in them areas. And now last year, the winter got so bad in January, February, a lot of bucks moved out of my public pieces, wherever they went for food and private land. But, that's, I run them from July to March, and then I kind of pull them and clean them up and, start putting them back out. But on my own property, like I said, I run them year round. I pull some in, but, they ain't hurt nothing, some of them areas just to sit there. But,
right.
Yeah.
Clint, you've got a pretty strict cleaning regimen when it comes to your trail cameras, don't you? Or care and concern, let's call it. Maybe not cleaning.
Yeah. So I like to use, like Scott said, my timeline's about like Scott's, July to shed season essentially. And I'll just pull them as I'm shed hunting and try to kill two birds with one stone essentially. But yeah, when I bring them in, I'm going to gut all the batteries and toss them, whether they're still good batteries or not, because I don't want to mix up. I just want to start fresh over next year with fresh batteries and everything. And
right,
I'll touch up the contact points, make sure the contact points aren't corroding at all. And they typically don't anymore. And some of the cameras used to years ago with alkaline batteries, but contact points, sometimes we'll scrub it up with like a little Brillo pad and some like battery terminal, Panther piss spray that you use for your car. I don't know what's in that stuff, but it knocks all the crud off your car terminals. And I'll use that, and one of the things I'll use to I like to take some desiccant, you can buy little tiny packs of desiccant to help dry them out, and I'll just throw a pile of them in each battery tray and slide the empty battery tray up into each camera and hopefully dry out any moisture they may have retained. I don't know if that helps or hurts. It makes me feel better. And finally, before I put them back out next season, I'll touch up the gaskets around the edges with just some good old silicone-based gasket grease. And that seems to give some of my cameras longer life. I don't know whether it helps or hurts. I don't think it hurts anything, but it's kind of tedious work, but I think it pays off the longer you get out of the camera, the better, obviously. But that's some of the things that I try and do.
Hey, Scott, have you or Clint, have either of you had any experience with Radix?
With what?
Radix trail cameras?
No. I have friends out here, Scott Rumpet, and used to be cameraman for Taylor Drury for years, worked for the Drurys, and I've got to know him, and he's one of the, I think, he's involved with that company. I think Clifford Martin might be the owner or something, but
yeah,
I know
Clifford
some of them.
Yep.
I just have, I just never had the opportunity to buy. I guess I've had the opportunity, I just haven't done it. Everything I see is positive on them. I haven't heard anything negative. I follow social media a lot, and everything I see is positive. I just haven't. I'm getting kind of stuck on a couple cameras, and I'd like to try them all, but I need a bigger pocket and bigger wallet, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I haven't had a chance to try them either, but they look good. The picture quality looks great on them.
Yeah,
I
was at the
Rumpet.
ATA show here. Well, I guess a week ago tomorrow, and I got to run into Jesse Hurley, the former owner of Stick and Pick, and he was at the Radix booth because Radix now owns. I don't know if they have a company name over and above the Radix, but the Radix name, but they now own Stick and Pick, and
Really?
yeah. So I got a chance to talk with Jesse, and then through that I got a chance to look at some of the Radix trail camera pictures, and the pictures were great. The videos, however, were without a doubt. Now I don't know anything about their trigger speed or anything like that, but just purely from a video quality standpoint, I don't know that there's anything better that I've seen, at least out there.
I would agree. I at Scott Rumpet and his wife Terry, they went out west. I don't know, for a couple months, this late summer, early fall. They set tons of cameras on video. They had pictures of bighorn sheep and elk. And
that's the guy I was talking to.
mountain.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the video I saw.
Yeah, he posted them on Facebook, and man, it was pretty incredible. He had, I think, mountain lions. He had video mountain lions, and probably was Scott. Was that his name, Scott? Or
I don't remember. I met so many people over the course of those 2 days.
Yeah, it was probably Scott. He runs with that booth a lot. And,
Okay.
Yeah, but the video looks. That's why I'd like to try one. I just haven't done it yet, but especially for video, I like them. The little Browning's got some pretty decent video on them too.
Oh
I
yeah,
like
definitely.
Yeah.
So, Clint, you have any more questions for Mr. Buckley?
Yeah, Scott, what's your have-to-have gear piece for the coming next season? Anything on your want list? Anything you got to have? Wanting to try?
You mean as far as equipment or
any of it? Yeah.
I don't know, man. As far as a deer, maybe a 250-inch Iowa whitetail, but
Sign me up.
I did. I know you never seen the picture, and I could probably talk about a little bit more, but Jason's seen them. I was after a 230, 40-inch, not this season, but the season before, had some tremendous pictures of them in the velvet, and even a couple in the rut. And then, I never I seen him in the summer, but not while I was hunting. And he totally went off grid this year. Nothing.
Do you think
he
he's
was
dead?
pretty. I would have to think he is, because the year before he was seen, out on the road a lot. The neighbors seen him. He was on all them alfalfa fields, no fear, and just nothing this year. No, but I mean, one of my neighbors feeds them year round. Feeds the deer, has feeders with. Lives in Michigan. He has cameras right on his feeders. That buck was as 2 years ago. You've seen the pictures of him, probably. My buddy Cameron Cobble. He came over, looked at the pictures, and most of the guys are saying 230. Camera said it might go upwards 250, and he was coming right into my neighbor's feeders, but totally, he didn't show up them feeders this year. Just nobody had anything on him, and a couple of people said, well, maybe EHD, but yet last summer he was visible before the deer started dying. So it's just weird. He just kind of disappeared in the thin air, So that's kind of why I talk about him a little bit more. If he was still there, I would have never talked about him on national radio show. But
yeah, I gotta tell you, when you showed me that picture at the at the Iowa show last year at the Iowa show.
Yeah.
When you had your deer in the booth there and you showed it to me, I went, oh my goodness. And you were headed out that Sunday, I believe, to check cameras on where you thought he might be. And and you actually got some pictures of him, and then you actually got some pictures of him this summer, right? And then
No, nothing this summer.
Oh, nothing this summer. Okay, so he just
nothing
vanished.
at all this year. The last picture I had, I was hoping to get him last winter, after the seasons that he survived. And nothing. The last pictures I had him was November 11th and 12th or something. He was on 2 different public land pieces. That's why I had an opportunity to hunt him, because he was on a couple public pieces. And just nothing. I don't know. I tend to think maybe somebody poached him, but how could they keep something like that? They'd have to mount them themselves, and I don't know how poacher's mind works, but I don't know. Just it's weird the thing went totally off grid. Unless he died of winter kill last year, somebody wounded him. He's laying somewhere in the woods. There's some big, huge public pieces around, and don't know, but.
All right. Well, we'll just give a shout out.
Something like this with a buck like this, that large of magnitude, and with that few intel, that minimal intel over the last calendar year plus. When do you finally pull the plug on the operation? Go, you know what? We're spending resources on an animal that is absolutely gone. Like when do you stop, or do you ever stop on him?
Yeah, I mean, I had so many cameras in the area, through summer, fall, just nothing. And so, I mean, I'm going to still continue in the same areas, maybe not as heavy, but just see if he disappears. I had cameras over a 3-mile area where I had pictures of him. He moved 3 miles from his summer area to his rutting area, and they both happened to be on public land pieces.
You're going to find out, I would say, by April, May, if somebody's going to be scouring the timber, looking for sheds, and if he is dead out there from EHD and he had moved on to a different property where maybe you didn't have a camera or have access to, you got to believe a buck of that magnitude is going to get talked about. Somebody's going to have those horns or those sheds or something, for heaven's sakes. Although you never had even sheds turn up or anybody start talking about the sheds, did you?
No.
I mean, I know it was kind of a black ops type of operation, but I don't care
he was
where.
Pretty visible,
right?
Some of the neighbors and one of the neighbors had him. One of the neighbors had him in front of him at 20 yards. He had a crossbow permit because he's lost his hand or something, and I don't know. Had him at 20 yards. His crossbow misfired. He's trying to cock the thing, and from what I heard, a buck walked right under a stand, rubbed the tree, and moved on, and he never got his crossbow cocked. Can you imagine that?
So let me get this straight. He what? He couldn't get his
crossbow misfired. I don't know. I didn't talk to the guy, but he was telling my other friends. He went to shoot it, his crossbow misfired. So then, he's in a ladder stand. He has a hook for a hand, so it's probably kind of hard to. I don't know how he cocked it or what happened, but he's trying to cock his crossbow, and this buck walks underneath his stand, rubs the tree, and walks off. He never got his bow recocked. This big old buck walked right under him.
Oh, that had to have been frustrating.
That's the problem with a crossbow. A compound, you just throw another arrow in and shoot. But if you're a one-armed bandit, probably hard to get your bow recocked.
Yeah, I would. He's probably a little disadvantaged there. Yeah.
Buck fever surging through your veins.
So what big plans have you got for the coming year? Any big projects on your
I guess,
property?
we're getting her kind of tuned up. This will be my fifth going into my 5th year owning it, and we went through 4 hunting seasons, and we're getting a lot of stuff situated. We'll pop in a couple blinds. I've got kind of getting more. We were building a pretty good deer herd. I mean, we got hit hard this year, but kind of there's always work to do, but
Sure.
I guess, hit the public land a little bit. I know one of my biggest goals this year is to get to hire enough people where I can get a little more time off. I mean, usually come November, I plan on a week, and then, I just come and go. If the guys need me, I come in for a day and take back off until I kill the deer. But this year was just rough. So I got to get me it'll cost, some guys this year. It's too stressful on an old man when you can't got to work every day and you can't go out hunting during the rut.
Well, hey, speaking of that, let's we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Unless you've worked with our land experts, you don't know what to expect. And until you've shared this with us, you won't know what you're missing. We are hunters and land professionals alike. We are United Country, serving you on your quest for hunting or recreational property. Bottom line, we work for you. UC Hunting Properties. Stand on your investment.
Well, there you go, the shameless plug for UC Hunting Properties. Was that enough of a break for you guys?
Oh, yeah. Sure. How's that going? How's that going for you, Jason? Your real estate quest been going good?
Yeah, it's a grind like hunting the rut. I mean, some days are like shooting fish in a barrel, and other days you're banging your head against the wall wondering where the hell everybody is. Honestly,
cool. You got it.
Yeah, it's been, honestly, I've been blessed. It's been a dream come true. I got to do some cool stuff that I would have never gotten to do sitting behind a desk, pushing a pen and paper. So,
yeah, that was probably pretty cool hunting with David Blanton there, eh?
Yeah, you know what? That was cool. And to, to make it even easier, he's just a genuinely good guy. So, I got to give those guys credit, and that show will probably air sometime third quarter of 2020 here. But those guys, they grounded out by themselves in Wisconsin here for I don't know how many days total David hunted. I think it was a total of 8 or 9 in a row. But as we can all attest to, it was horrible conditions. I mean, honestly, when those guys showed up, and they had their stuff sent. I think Arctic Shield was their sponsor for that week, and thank goodness, because I didn't know a lot about Arctic Shield, and they put their clothes on, and I'm like, oh, I looked at them and I thought, oh, you boys are gonna be cold, but they were fine the whole night, and they stuck it out and did their thing, and eventually. David's cameraman had to go home, and that's when I got called up from the minors, I guess.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah, so
it had to be exciting.
Yeah, it definitely was. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, Scott, is spreading yourself out between public and private. Is it harder having to manage 2 or 3 or 4 properties in your head, and keep things straight, or do you just sort of dial in where a buck's at and then really concentrate on that buck, or do you spread yourself around on all these properties?
I'm getting a lot better at it now. I guess years ago I used to overextend myself. Now, I mean, most of the areas I know, so that helps when you know the area. And it's kind of when you're younger, you just go gun ho, and you're out there just no matter, run a million cameras on every day. As you get older, you get a little more wisdom, and now I know kind of where to place cameras, where to pick these bucks up. So it's, I don't know if you get what I'm getting, but I know where to find these deer now. Back in the day, it was more or less run them in cameras, wear myself thin, and now I know where to find them. Then I can do my inventory, see if the bucks are there. And I got a pretty good. I relate. Some people talk about Mark Drury, how he has a memory for all these tens of thousands of pictures they do all the time, and how he remembers this deer and that deer. I mean, I get to know my deer pretty good. I don't have the numbers probably like they got because they do it full time, but I know where, I keep track of some of the same deer year after year. I keep detailed on my computer, usually from 3 years on, unless he's just a 3-year-old 8-point, but it's got any character. I start saving pictures, and then, I'll have a file for each public land piece. So I can watch these deer, year after year. I mentioned in other podcasts, I had a buck one time for 7 years on public land. He was 7 years old. I figured, I had sheds off him some of them years and pictures, and I start making history with a lot of these deer, and I keep it pretty much straight. I mean, now I guess this going on my 5th year on my property. The first 2 years I had my property, I was pretty scatterbrained then because my property was pretty much virgin. I had, the old owners, they were real elderly people, and they didn't really they had a couple dinky ass food plots, but I spent so much time on my property trying to get it, gun ho. I slacked on the public land stuff, and it was hard to keep track of stuff then. But now that I'm getting my property situated where I want it, now I'm kind of tending to go back into the public a little bit more, and I think that's so huge. People get a piece of property, they can overhunt it so easy. They think, cool, I got property. You can mine's 240 acres. I grew up in Michigan where 20-30 was a good chunk. You get out in the Midwest, big piece, and I can overhunt that in a heartbeat, if I'm not careful. That's why I love going to the public land and, finding different bucks. And me, it's more of I'm an explorer. I love just scouting. I mean, I could walk every day in different pieces if I had time. I just love finding different areas, and I love finding big bucks. And if I had the time, I know every inch of every public land in Iowa. I just don't have the time. But it's just I get it down pretty good. I'll fine tune. Like I've said before, I start getting some good bucks on a couple pieces, then I'll kind of drop, other ones, and I'll concentrate, if I got 3-4 good bucks on a piece, then I'll go into season and concentrate. It depends on the size, caliber of buck. I'll still bounce around because I'll feel like I'm putting pressure. I go into a spot a couple times, and I feel like I'm putting pressure on some of these deer. So I back out. It depends on the stand, the spot. Some stands are more, let's say you're coming up in a creek or river where you can just crawl up. Yeah, and deer can't get behind you and win you. You can go in there a few times, but I'm a freak about deer starting to pattern me. If they can get behind me or smell my tracks going into a stand, I back out there. A big buck isn't going to put up with that at all, especially in the early season, in the rut.
Sounds like you got a little Todd Pringnitz in you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Clint, would you say that you kind of have the same style?
Yeah, it's hard to. I'm exactly just like Scott said, man. When I was, in my mid-20s, I was spreading myself way too thin, thinking I was doing the right thing. Just hanging a million stands and sometimes overhunting them and just not, I was just going too crazy. But I like Scott's method quite a bit, and I use it. I'm going to try and target a section of timber or ground or whatever that I've got more than one target buck on. Or, there'll be a top guy on there, but we call them bonus bucks, like good deer that are mature that we definitely would like to try and take. And if they come strolling by, great. And if there's 3 or 4 of those individuals on that same piece, then it's, man, I am gonna pressure that a little bit harder than if there's just one solitary number 1 top shelf buck on a piece. But I'm kind of the same way. Now one of the things I'm going to try and do, like you asked Scott about, what's his off-season goals. I think maybe one of the things I'm going to try and do in this off-season is, I've got a handful. I've still got several, kind of old, reliable stationary stands that we've left for a couple, 3 years or what have you. And I'm just going to do a full body off restoration. As soon as season closes, I'm going to go out the first several days I have off and just rip sets, every one of them. I'm going to start completely over. And it may not be a total stand change in this area. It may just be moving 25 yards to a different tree that I've always thought, hey, I could go over there, but I'm close enough here. And I just want to start fresh, bring those sets in and kind of change things up a little bit. Definitely going to continue to be more, adding more mobility. We're definitely starting to lean more towards the running guns way more. Like I'd say I'm probably 50-50 now when it comes to stationary versus mobile sets. And I like the idea of going in the off season here and just putting pins in the onyx maps. Hey, this would be a great tree for a mobile set, and having a bunch of those pins in for future use. And you may not ever need them, but it's a hell of a lot easier to erase it on onyx maps than it is to go hang a set, try it a few times and realize this sucks and bail on it. It's
right.
So much easier doing it that way.
Right. Scott, when you're hunting Iowa public, I don't know what the rules are down there or in Illinois for that matter, but in Wisconsin you can't leave a stand overnight. Can you do that in Iowa? Can you set preset stands and leave them hung?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you can.
Oh yeah. Yep. I think you have to a week. You can't put them out till a week. I think it's 7 days before season. And then it's the same. You can leave them, from October 1st till January 10th through gun season, bow season, everything. And then,
sure.
And then I think you have a week after season
to get them
to
out.
take them down. But you can leave them up that entire time. So
cool. So are you running and gunning then, or do you have those sets set before you're in there?
I do a little of both, kind of like Clint said. I take some in some of my solid spots. I'll take some in that week before October. Luckily, I got my boy, so yeah, I make him load his back up too, and we go set some cheap preset stands, and then usually I set the stand and I take my lone wolf steps in and out. I do that, but then I also got the running gun set. I bought one of the new Millennium. That's a rough word for it. Millennium stands.
Millenniums. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. I bought one. I think it's the M7 or something, pretty lightweight one. I bought that this year, and for last years I had the old silverback gorilla stand. I had a couple of them that were real lightweight. that I used for years for my run and gun, or hang and hunt, I guess you should say. And then I've had the lone wolf steps, but yeah, I got that Millennium this year, and I like that. And man, there's some really nice stands coming out. You know, some of them are real pricey, like lone wolf custom gear, pretty pricey, but I seen one at ATA. I didn't go to the ATA, but you know, an ad after that.
The Hawk.
Oh, $7. Yeah, the Hawk.
Yep.
That looks like a pretty good stand there. Real good.
Yeah.
And the price seemed pretty reasonable too for.
Yeah, I spent some time
stand.
at the GSM booth, and I don't even know what GSM stands for. I just remember it was GSM, and they must own Muddy and Hawk. And yeah, that stand was pretty well put together.
Yeah, it did look good, and then there's a bracket system with that too, isn't there?
Yeah.
Where you put it in with bracket too. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
You probably met, Chris Duncan. He's one of the head guys there at GSM now. You might have talked to him or not, but
I'm not sure. I don't remember if I did or not.
Oh yeah.
But
I know he was there every day.
Yeah. Hey, we lost Clint, so I'm going to add him back into the call somehow.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what happened to him, but he just must have fallen off the face of the earth or something. But anyway, yeah, those were interesting. Those were definitely interesting stands to look at.
Shoot.
You there, Clint?
Yeah. But
sorry about that. Scott, are you there? Now we got Scott. Right?
Yeah, me.
Hey, the band's back together.
What happened to you, Clint? I'll tell you, man. Let me tell you. Let me go off on a little tangent. It's probably that Frontier internet service we got out here.
Oh yeah, I seen you post something about that,
buddy. Let me tell you.
Oh boy.
It is like pulling teeth.
They're horrible. We could do a whole show on that. I think that the Frontier guy was scared when I moved into my last place out here in the country because they didn't show up for like 2 days, and he was parked at the gas station here in Portage, and I whip in there and I'm like, "Are you the guy that's supposed to be coming to my house to set up my internet?" And he looks at me like, "Who the hell are you?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm just wondering if you're coming to my place today." He goes, "Well, what's your name?" And I told him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to be there in a little bit." I go, "Well, I'm not." But the kid that's there is 18. I'd paid a couple kids to sit here for 2 different days, but anyway, I hate those guys. Well, hey guys, let's wrap up the show here. Any final thoughts from you, Scott?
No, I just hope it's a great year, and hopefully things get better around here. As far as we'll see what year left, and go from there.
Clint, anything that you'd like to add before we close out the show?
In the face of EHD outbreaks and like where you're at, Jason, in Wisconsin, CWD, I mean, there's always going to be mortality we've got to contend with, whether it's winter kill, EHD, CWD, where you're at. We just got to, man, you just got to stay positive in those situations and keep going forward, and good things will happen. It's gonna suck for Scott and for a little bit, and maybe for us too. We've yet to really determine how bad we've gotten hit, and I figure we'll determine that once we get out and start pounding shed ground. But you just got to adapt. It didn't kill them all. They're still out there. You just got to go find them, and it may make for a hell of a lot of work, but that's what we do. So that's our plan going forward anyway.
Sounds like a good plan. Well, hey, as always, thanks guys for taking the time. And Scott, I I always enjoy talking to you. It's always fascinating to hear your stories, and particularly how you jump back and forth between the public ground and your private ground. That's a great strategy, and one I think we'll see probably a few more people employ down the road here. But I guess that's about all I've got. Anybody got anything else? Otherwise, I'll close out the show.
Yeah, I think I'm good. Nice talking to you guys, and I enjoy it. And yeah, keep in touch. If you ever want to do that's kind of my new thing here, or not new thing. I've been doing it for years, but I just started doing it again. Is snaring coyotes, kind of some predator control, and just getting my farm set up now. Our season's over in a couple of weeks, but usually I don't mess around with it much during deer season. I'm too busy, but I can. A good way to control some.
Let's do that.
Coyotes.
I'd love to hear you snare them, and I saw that post on Facebook, and it's something that I'd love to hear more about. So let's plan on a show in the future about that. And Clint, are you up for that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd like to actually learn that.
Me too.
I grew up in a really kind of a non-hunting family and kind of learned it on my own. My uncle started me into whitetails, but I didn't really have a lot of. I didn't anyone really that teach me anything about hunting or trapping fur bearers, and it's something I'm a complete total novice at. Like I've never done it. I've always, it's definitely something that we need to focus on. Let me give you an example. In tonight's tree stand set, I saw more raccoons than I saw deer. And I saw like a dozen deer, so they were all over me. Now they may have been the same raccoons, but they were ultra active. Let's put it that way. And we have a big coyote problem around here on our family farm, and we got some guys that come in and they're very talented guys that do night hunting and stuff. But I would like to learn and get a little more hands-on on that aspect. It's definitely something I've never tried before. It's definitely something I'd like to be taught.
Somebody I posted that the other day. A guy from Illinois commented. He said snaring wasn't even legal in Illinois.
We have
that's true. Yeah. I mean, I have done foot trapping. I do that more in the fall when the ground's unfrozen, and but it's not my thing. I can rack up huge numbers. I mean, the first 2 years on just my property, 240 acres again, I caught 25 coyotes first year, 25 coyotes second year, 50 coyotes in 2 years on my property. I mean, that don't mean they all live there, of course. They can range, I usually take out the local ones, and then
they may not all live there. They may not all live there, but they all eat there.
Right.
Yeah, they all travel through. They come from 10, 15 miles. And as you take out your local ones, then new ones come in, and you just keep catching them. But, and then last year I didn't trap much, just didn't have the time. But I did catch one coyote, fox. But, yeah, we have bobcats, coyotes, fox. We got it all there. And it's just nice to thin them out. That first year I bought the farm, I found so many dead fawns on my place. I'm like, I bought it in, what did I close on the property in April or May? May. I'm walking out, like I'm finding fawn carcasses everywhere. I said, I got to do something. That's when I got, I hadn't trapped much since, back in 2000 when I used to run a lot of traps in Michigan, and I trapped a few at my house. But yeah, I went bonkers that first fall, and I caught 25, 50 in the first 2 years because I just started finding dead fawns everywhere, and it's just like, I'm going to do something. And I put a hurting on them. There weren't many around last year, and now they're starting, I didn't trap last year. Now they're starting to creep back. We're getting a few more on camera. So I thought, especially after I got that wounded buck, I keep thinking I would hate to see a coyote take him down, So that was one of my primary, and then we've lost so many deer. I thought, well, I'll catch a few more coyote this year and see how it goes. So,
yeah, well, we'll definitely have to look into doing a show on that. In the future.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, Until next time, thanks a lot for your time, and we'll catch up with you guys another time.
Sounds good.
All right,
Sounds good
boys.
talking to you, Jason. You as well, buddy.
All right, take care.
You too. Good luck last couple days, Clint.
We'll try it, man.
Okay. Good night. Talk to you guys later.
All right, see ya.
Yeah, bye.
See ya.
Well, there you have it, another episode of the White Knuckle Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show and hope you picked up a few nuggets of information along the way that you can use down the road. I want to take just a second and thank our partner in this endeavor, and that is UC Hunting Properties. Without them, this couldn't be possible. You guys all know that I work with UC Hunting Properties, and they're actually nationwide. I would encourage you, for any of your property needs, go to www.uchuntingproperties.com. Thanks for listening. Jason out.